making. Hi, everybody. This is Tessa, and I'm so excited to be crafting with you all today. We're going to be making this fun fruit slice artwork today, and you can see it's full of texture and color, and there's a million ways you can make this art. You can make different types of fruit. I went with a citrus theme, but you can do all different types of fruit and use lots of different materials. So I'm going to go through all of the materials I'll be showing you how to use today. And then if you have any questions, if you want any suggestions on different materials, put that in the Q&A, just like Nicole said, and we'll be able to help you along the way. So first thing we're going to be using is our white piece of paper, and this is going to be just the background of our artwork. So you can use any color that you want. I just have some Creatology construction paper. And then we're going to be using foam sheets today. So I've got all sorts of foam sheets, and I'm using like yellow and orange and green and white. Again, you can use different color foam if you want to. I have like the big Creatology foam primary colors. There's red and purple. You can use any color that you want to make whatever kind of art or whatever kind of fruit you might want to make. And then we're going to be using glue dots. So glue dots are our mess-free favorite option for gluing anything, and they work really, really well with foam. If you aren't using foam sheets today, and maybe you're just using all construction paper instead, you could use a glue stick or a liquid craft glue as well. And then to decorate our fruit slices, we're going to be using some of these little Chenille stems or pipe cleaners. And again, I have them in matching colors to my fruit slices. So I've got orange and yellow and green. And then I've got some glitter paint pins. So you can use glitter as well if you want to use loose glitter and liquid glue. These glitter pins are just really easy and fun to use. They come in a ton of colors. So I'm using my Creatology glitter pins. And then lastly, for little adornments, I've got all these fun little sparkly bits. So we've got all different color of hearts or flowers. And these all come pre-adhesive. So on the back, there's like a little sticker that will pull off, and it will just automatically stick to anything we do. So those are really easy to use. And then you're going to want a marker of some kind. I'm going to use a marker from my Creatology marker set. We're just going to be using a marker to draw all of our fruit shapes today, and then also a pair of scissors. So I'm just going to grab a black marker, but you can use any marker color that you want. Or again, if you're using paper instead of foam, you can use a pencil or a crayon also. I think that's everything we're going to need. So I'm going to flip my camera around so you guys can see my hands and we can get started. Okay, so we've got our sample here. And so our first step is going to be cutting out all of our little fruit shapes. So I'm going to set this aside and grab some of our foam sheets here. I'm just going to give myself a little bit more space to see everything we're working with. All right, so to do our little foam sheets, I'm using some green foam first, and we're going to draw a round circle to be a little lime slice, as well as a little half circle for a smaller slice. And you can make your fruit any size you want. So I'm just going to take my marker, and I'm just going to start at the top and then just slowly draw a circle. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Circles sometimes can be hard to be perfect. As you can see, mine is not. But as we trim it with our scissors, we can make it a little bit more round if needed. And then I'm going to draw a half circle. So I'm going to draw a line. And then I'm going to connect that by drawing a little rounded edge. And again, if you want to make yours really big, you can do that. You can have mega fruit slices. That would be fun. Or miniature fruit slices. That would also be very cute. So you could do any size that you want. And then we're going to cut these slices out before we move on to our next color. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut right along the edge of the marker line I just drew. I like to cut kind of right inside the line, and that way it cuts away the marker line, but you can also flip over your foam sheet and then you won't even see that line. You can see there's still like a little bit of the black edge there, but when you flip that over, you won't even notice it. Or you can come back with your scissors and just trim it a little bit. And when you're cutting foam or really any material, I like to try to get my material as far into the mouth of my scissors. So I want to try to put my material closest to the handle rather than cutting on the tip. When you cut with the tip of the scissors, sometimes it can split the material as you cut through. So if you cut at the mouth closest to the handle, that gives you a little bit more control and a much smoother cut. Right, so we've got a little half circle and a bigger circle, full circle there. And again, you can see a little bit of like the black line still. So we can just flip that over when we glue it down and you'll never even notice. Okay, so we've got 2 little lime slices. Next, we're going to cut out our orange slice. So we're going to do a half a slice here. And again, I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to do this one a little bit bigger. So if I have this one next to it, I can see that I want to make sure this one's bigger than my little lime slice. And then I'm just going to draw a circle shape to meet those 2 lines. And then we can cut this out. And so this is like a little orange slice and we're doing lime slices. So we're doing all citrus colors over here. But I'd love to know what you guys are making at home. So if you are doing a different fruit or using different colors, you can definitely let me know that in the Q&A. All right, so we're building up our little fruit slices here. Next, we're going to use yellow and some white. So on our little lemon slice here, you can see we've got a larger yellow circle, and then inside of that is a white circle, and then more little orange segments to look like little fruit segments. So we're going to cut out all those little segments as well, but we're cutting out all the big pieces first. So we're going to start with a yellow circle. And you can also always trace something if you want to, like a bowl or a cup. I have to give myself a rough guide, and then you can kind of trim your edges to cut it into a perfect or close to perfect shape. I mean, even an orange or a lemon, those aren't ever perfect slices either. They've all got their own little shapes. There we have our yellow slice. And then we're going to do a white slice that goes inside of that. So to do that, you can either just hold this one next to it and you can draw a smaller circle next to it so you get an idea. You can also trace the first circle that you cut out, and then we'll cut it down from there. So sometimes that's really easy. Then you know that you're not going to have a slice that's too big. So I'm going to trace this one first. And then we're gonna cut this out. And I like to sometimes cut away all my excess material. And so that way you're not fighting with all of this in your scissors. You just have a little bit of excess along the edges instead. And then here, instead of cutting directly on the line, I'm going to kind of use my line as a guide, but I'm going to cut inside a little bit. And that's just going to make my circle a little bit smaller. It'll be about the same shape, so it'll fit inside of the yellow slice. So you can see where my scissors are going, and I'm cutting about 1/4 inch, just a little bit further in from my line. Again, you can just draw another circle, and then you can cut it down if you need to. And then we'll just put that on top. You can see that it just fits right inside as a smaller little circle right inside of the yellow one. Okay, so we've got all of our primary shapes here. You can see we're building up our little citrus slices that are looking so cute. We are going to glue all these onto our paper, but first we're going to now cut out our smaller little segments. So you can see in our sample here, we've got all these little like raindrop or teardrop shapes. Those just to kind of mimic what the inside of a piece of fruit has, all those little segments. So we're going to draw all of those next. So I'm going to set these aside. We've got all of our main pieces. And now you can kind of get an idea of what size little raindrops you might need to make. So you're going to look at all of those. So we'll start with our green one here and cut out our 3 little small teardrop shapes to go inside of our little half slice. And so I'm going to use my marker again, and I'm just going to draw 3 little teardrops. You can see sort of like a little oval, but with a point. You want them roughly the same size. Again, I'm going to flip these over so you won't even notice the black line. And I'm also going to cut each one apart from each other so we're not dealing with all that extra in the way. And I'm just going to cut right along my edge here. Like cutting out these little raindrop pieces will be the hardest little part just because it's smaller pieces. And you can cut out more of these if you want, and put as many of these little segments into your fruit slices. Again, if you're making yours a little bit bigger, then you might want to make more of them. But for our little slice here, you can see those fit on there quite perfectly. So we've got a few of those for our green one. And now we're going to do our orange slice. And we're going to cut 3 more teardrops, but this one, since our slice is bigger, our little raindrop sizes are going to be bigger as well. And so again, I'm just going to draw these on here. And you can put your little fruit slice next to it if you want to, or cover it up as you draw it to make sure that it's smaller than your actual fruit slice, that it will fit inside. So we have 3 more, and then we're going to cut all of those out as well. And sometimes like part of my little teardrop here has like a pointed edge. So you can come back with your scissors and just kind of trim it to make sure that that looks nice and rounded. Right, cutting out our third and final orange segment. You can see all of mine look slightly different. They're all about the same size, but they range a little bit in shape. And I think that that makes them really cute. And that looks like a little orange or a piece of fruit. They all have their own little details. Okay, so last we're going to cut out our lemon segments. And for that, we actually did 7 of them. So again, you don't have to do as many, or you can do more smaller ones if you want to. But I'm going to draw 7 little teardrops here. And if cutting them out and not a lot of space in between yours, if that's a little bit challenging, you can just spread them out as well. So you don't have to draw them so close together, and that gives you a little bit more space for your scissors. Right, so now we've got all of these little teardrops we're going to cut out next. As you see, as I'm making mine, I'm just flipping them over so that way you won't even see any of your marker or your template lines. And then you don't have to worry about staying directly on the line, or if you want to cut yours out a little bit smaller or bigger as you go. Once we start gluing all of these little pieces together, then we are going to add all of these cute little details like glitter and sequins, and using our pipe cleaners to make little borders. So this is just our first step, and I always like to kind of do things in a bit of an assembly line. So we're going to cut out all of our pieces first, and then we'll glue them all together. I don't know where all of you that are joining us, where you guys are crafting from today, but I am in California and it is very hot. And so this summery fruit slice is looking pretty refreshing right about now. Okay, so at this point, if you missed a step or if you're not quite here yet, that's okay. But we should have some fruit slices going. So we have one large yellow circle and a smaller white circle that will go in the middle. And then we have our little yellow segments that will go on top of that. And then we have a orange half slice with 3 orange little raindrop segments, 1 smaller green circle, and then 1 green half circle, and 3 little green segments that will go on that. All right. So we're getting all of our pieces together here, which is amazing. And next we're going to start gluing these all together. So we're going to grab our sheet of paper. I'm going to set some of these little pieces aside. And as we glue all these together, again, you can make yours as big or as small as you want. So if your fruit slices look bigger than mine, that's great. They can take up the whole page and be really cute. And you also don't have to do a whole stack like our sample is. You can just do one big piece in the middle if you want to. So there's no wrong way to craft our fruit slices today, which is why it's so fun. Okay, so we're going to start grabbing all these together here. And we're going to use our glue dots. And if you haven't used glue dots, they're super easy. They have hardly any mess, which I think we all love. And they stick to almost anything. So when we're using like our foam slices that are a little bit funky, sometimes the material is so fun to use and you can cut it into so many different shapes, but it doesn't always stick with like a glue dot, or liquid glue takes a long time to dry. And so that's where glue dots come in perfectly for us to use. So sometimes they come on little sheets or a little tape dispenser even. I just have the little roll here. And so if you haven't used glue dots before, then you can kind of see there's like a shiny little circle on the edge of my roll. And that's exactly what we're going to use. And they're really simple and they just make everything stick and they don't have any dry time. All right, so we're going to start with gluing our biggest pieces first. So we're going to take our yellow circle and I'm going to take my glue dots. I'm going to take the back of my yellow circle and stick it directly onto the glue dot. Now you can see that little shiny dot is the glue dot. And I'm going to do like 3 or 4 of them on the back. I'm doing them kind of right along the edge of it. So you can see I've got like 4 of these glue dots. And then I'm going to lay this kind of toward the bottom of my sheet of paper. And you can use any composition that you want. Our sample that we're making today, we did a little fruit slice stack, but again, you can have them all over the paper. Maybe you want them more abstract. Maybe yours are all in a basket. You can mix and match all of your fruit slices however you want. Okay, then we're going to take our white circle and we're going to put a couple of glue dots on the back. And then we're going to place that in the center of our yellow circle. And then just press that down a little bit. All right, next is our orange slice. And I'm gonna have this one kind of topsy-turvy stacked on top. I'm just gonna place it right next on top of my yellow slice. And then we have our full-size circle, green circle. And same thing, putting like 3 or 4 glue dots on the back. And I'm gonna have it sit on the edge of my orange half slice. Press that down. And then our last slice shape, we're going to put down at the bottom, leaning up against our yellow lemon slice. And so we're gonna have it sit. just like that. So now you have what just looks like a fun shape tower now. But once we add all of our cute details, they'll start to look like little fruit shapes. All right, so next we can start to attach all of our little segment pieces. And so I'm going to start with our orange ones here. And we're just going to use glue dots again. So I'm going to put a glue dot on the back of each segment. I'm going to start with one in the middle of these. And so put one right in the middle. That way it's easy to know where your other two will meet up on each side. And I'm going to have them kind of at an angle so that the tips of my little raindrops are pointed towards each other. Same thing here. I'm going to have this one kind of go at an angle going out with the tip of my raindrop pointed towards each other. All right, and we'll do the same thing for our little green one. And sometimes you might have glue dots that are different sizes. So if yours are bigger than your little segments like mine is, I can just kind of fold the glue dot onto the back. They also look clear, so if some of your glue dot shows, you won't even notice that. All right, so I'm gonna put that one again right kind of in the center. And I'm going to put it a little bit towards the top. So here's the top of my slice. I'm putting my little pointed end more toward the top rather than right in the middle, so that way we can add a cute little pipe cleaner rim on that. And then we're gonna do the same thing since we're using 3 on this little half slice again. So we're gonna have it pointed right towards each other. And then do our third one. And so if maybe you're making a different fruit, or next time you want to make different fruit in the same style, you could do a watermelon, and you could do the same sort of shapes, but they could be the seeds instead of the little citrus segments. So you can reuse the same craft in a lot of different ways, which is always the fun thing about learning something new. Then you can do it over and over again. All right, so next we've got our little yellow segments here. And sometimes if you're doing a lot of these together, it's nice to lay them out before you glue them on. That way you can kind of space them out and know where each one's going to go. So I cut out 7. You could do less. If you wanted to do less, you could just space them out more. That kind of gives you a good placement. It starts to look like a little lemon slice. So once you kind of have them where you want, then I'm just going to take one at a time and then glue them in place. And again, I'm doing them all with the pointed side all toward the middle, all the points facing each other. And if your segments look bigger or smaller, that is totally fine. They, again, don't have to look exactly like this sample. So if yours are filling in more of your space, or maybe even less, that is still going to be super cute. So they can all look a little different. All right, so now my last little yellow segment there. And there we have all of our little raindrop segments in there and looking much more like fruit and not just a shape, but we are not done. So from here, we can add some fun details. And this is where you can really get as creative as you want. So I'm going to use glitter and our pipe cleaners. We've got cute little rhinestones. We can do some marker details as well. So, but you can do as many of these details as you want, or you can pick and choose and just do a little bit, or you can go wild and everything's covered in glitter. It's my personal favorite. So it's up to you. But I'm going to use my glitter pins at the very end. The glitter takes a little while to dry. So we're going to glue all of our other details on first, and then we'll top it with our glitter at the end. So first, I think let's glue on some of our cute little details with our little Chenille stems here. So I have a green one, and to do little like segments, fuzzy segments that looks very similar in shape to all of these that we cut out, but just to give it a different texture, we're going to make some using the little fuzzy sticks instead. And so I'm going to cut mine into smaller pieces. It's about a 2.5, 3-inch piece. You can make them as big or small as you want. You can also trim them down as you go. I'm going to cut that down. And sometimes these, they have a little wire inside, which makes them really fun. You can bend them and shape them into anything you want. But that also means that they can be a little bit hard to cut. So just like my tip with cutting out the shapes in the foam, we're going to put our pipe cleaner all the way toward the handle of our scissors and then cut down. Sometimes if it's too close to the tip of your scissors, it can just kind of slip right out. So we're going to hold it from a distance and then hold it all the way into toward the handle and then cut. This also is a good step that if you're having trouble, you can always ask an adult for help. Or you can skip this step if you don't have pipe cleaners today. You can cut out more little paper or foam segments for that last line as well. Okay, so now I'm going to take my little piece here. I'm going to start to bend it. And then with these 2 fingers, I'm just going to twist the end. It's going to make very similar little raindrop shape, and that can go right in the middle. So you can see we're going to do that a couple more times here. I'm going to take my smaller piece and I'm going to hold it in the middle with 1 finger and thumb, and with my other hand, I'm going to just slowly bend these 2 pieces together. And then I'm going to twist them. And if yours, making these a little bit smaller, just twist them a little bit more and then you can cut off any excess too. Make sure they fit inside of our circle. So there's a few more. We're going to do a couple more of these. So again, I'm going to hold it in the middle with 1 finger and thumb, and with my other finger and thumb, I'm going to pull the 2 ends close together and then just twist them together. So to twist them, I'm going to lay them 1 tip on top of the other and then just kind of give it a little twist, and it will want to hold on to each other. So I'm going to make a total of 5 of these. Again, if you want to make more, that's great as well. Start to see all of those little segments together. And then we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna use our glue dots and we're going to glue each one down. So I'm gonna start with one. And these sometimes, again, we've got a little hole in the middle that we are gonna add some glitter, but you're not gonna notice the glue dot through that hole. So you can just put the center of your little fuzzy segment and just stick it right on the back. So you can see it's kind of right over that center hole, and that's fine. You're not going to see that. We're going to cover that with some glitter. And even if you aren't using glitter today, you won't even notice that little shiny glue dot through the middle. And that's going to hold it on nice and tight. I'm going to do the same thing with all of these. So again, we're going to do our rounded ends toward the outside and our pointed ends in the middle, all towards each other, just like we did with our little cutout pieces as well. All right, we got one more here. And there we have our cute little fuzzy segments there. All right, so next we're going to add a little fuzzy like rind or a little rim to this lime. And so I'm going to hold the edge of my little pipe cleaner onto the edge of my lime and then just kind of bend it around so I know how big to make it. So I'm going to hold it like that, and then I'm just going to grab the end of it, and then I know that's where I want to cut it. I'll show you that again with a full one here so you can just see. I'm just going to hold it down with one hand, and then with the other hand, I'm just going to kind of wrap it around. Just give you a good idea of how big you want to cut your piece, and then grab that other end, and then right where you're holding it is where you want to cut it. And then we're going to do glue dots yet again. And I'm going to use a couple of glue dots on this. So I'm going to put one on the end. And again, I'm just going to kind of smush the glue dot onto the back of my pipe cleaner. I'm going to lay that right onto the edge. And then I'm going to add a couple more glue dots, one in the middle and one on the other end. Sometimes too, you can even like kind of roll the glue dot off. I'm going to lay that onto my foam and then put the pipe cleaner on top of it. There we go. All right. So we've got all of those on there. We also, in our little sample piece here, added in some more little details using our pipe cleaners. So to do that, we're gonna do the same thing we did to just cut down some small little pieces. I just think that this is just adds a little bit of texture, which is fun. And so I'm just gonna cut like 4 or 5 small little segments, and you can see these are just little tiny pieces. And then if you want to, we're just going to glue dot those on as well. Again, so much of what all these little pieces do just gives all of our artwork some fun texture. And it makes it all 3D, which is really cool. Gives you a lot more interest. So as you show your artwork to someone, or if you're making it for someone as a gift, then there's so much to look at and just makes it really fun to hang on the wall. I'm going to take one of these pieces and I'm just going to curve the end a little bit so that it can kind of round the edge of one of our little pieces here. Sometimes when it's the same color on color, so just curve the edge of that so it can just lay right on top, and it will curve go with the same curve as our little segment. All right, I'm gonna add one more little piece here. And again, obviously my glue dot is bigger than the actual pipe cleaner since they're so skinny. So I'm just gonna kind of fold it on top of itself. Okay, so there's all of our pipe cleaner details. We've got all these cute textures going on. All right, so next I'm gonna add some marker details. Again, this is optional, like all of these fun decorative things are. So I'm gonna use some of my colors in my Creatology marker set. And I'm gonna use some of the same colors that we're using in all of our fruit slices. So to just add a little bit of texture to make it look like the rind of the fruit, actually, we're gonna do little dots all along the edges. So you can see we've got little dots here and around the edges here, and even little dots on the yellow here. Use a green marker to start with. I'm gonna use a slightly, you wanna make sure you're still using the same color, but a little bit darker. So I'm gonna use a green marker and then I'm just going to do little dots all along the edge of my circle. If you want to do a different color, you can do that as well. This is just going to be the same color, so it's all tone on tone. So it's using the same color, but using different shades of that, and that gives it some great texture. So I'm just using the point of my marker to do a little pointillism technique. And so it just gives it a little shading all along the edges and has it sort of that little like dimpled look that a lot of citrus fruit has. Little dots all along the edge. And if you are using paper instead of foam, again, you can do the same look with crayons or colored pencil if you aren't using markers today. You could also do paint, which would be really fun if you wanted to do paint instead of markers. All right, so there you can see, got all those little dots all the way around, just to kind of mimic the look of the rind of a piece of citrus fruit. Next, we're gonna do the same thing on our orange, but we're just gonna do the bottom portion because that's where the rind of the fruit would be, where this top portion will be the nice juicy center. So we're just gonna do all along the rounded bottom. And again, there's no wrong or right way to do all these little dots. You can just do a few or you can do a bunch. All of mine are kind of overlapping. And this gives not only a little more texture, but also kind of shades it to make it feel like that's maybe a thicker piece of the fruit, just a little more detail. Right, so now our orange slice has a nice little rind on it too. And last, we're going to do our outer edge of our lemon slice. So just on the yellow portion here. Use a slightly darker yellow. That to show up a little bit more. And again, I'm just going around the edges of it. If you get some on your white circle, that's fine too. But I'm just kind of going right around the edge. You can also use multiple shades if you are also using this big pack of markers from Creatology like I am using today. So you could do different shades of the same colors all layered together would be really cool too. All right, so now that we have added all these little dots on all of our shapes, which is again adding some great little details. I'm going to set my markers aside. And now we can do some glitter glue. And the very last thing we'll do is add in some of our little rhinestones. And I think those will just sit right on top of the glitter as well. So I'm going to take some of my glitter glue here. Got all these fun colors. Again, you can mix and match. Maybe you want to add some pink glitter to your lime or some purple glitter to your orange. I think that sounds pretty darn cute. So you can do any color combo you want. Or if you want to do color on color, that's also really cute. So I'm going to grab some of my green. And we're going to do a light green in between all these segments. I'm going to take my glitter pin and I'm just going to squeeze it. And then with the tip, so you can see I just squeezed out a portion, but I'm not covering the whole thing with that much. So squeeze out a little bit, and then with the tip of my glitter pin, I'm just going to kind of smush all that around. It's going to look kind of globby at first. And we don't have enough time together today to watch them dry, but as your fruit art dries, you'll be able to see all of that clear goopy portion of the glue will just dry clear, and then we'll just be left with a nice little glitter base. If you're using loose glitter today instead, you will do a very similar version, but instead you're going to use some liquid glue and smear it around just like we're smearing this. And then you're going to shake a little bit of your loose glitter on top. And that's going to take just about as long to dry. And so as it dries, I would just let it sit. And then once it's all dry, you can shake it all off. Okay, so then I'm going to use the same light glitter down here on my little lime slice. I'm going to add glitter onto these little citrus segments. You could also do marker details. So maybe you're not using glitter today. You could do little more details with more shades of green instead. You can see here, got all this green on green happening. And right now, again, it looks all kind of gloopy, but as it dries, it will just dry totally flat and clear and just left with all the cute glitter. All right, so next I'm going to take some of my dark green glitter and I'm going to put it right in the center of these little fuzzy segments we created. So I'm not covering the whole thing because I want to still have that fuzzy texture, but just to give it, again, some more dimension and playing with all these different shades of the same color. All right, so to finish out our top little line here, I'm going to put a little green floral rhinestone right in the center. And so these ones are so great, and they have the little adhesive sticker on the back, basically just like a glue dot that we've been using. And so I'm just going to peel off that little white sticker, and then I'm going to stick it right in the center. And look at that little lime. It is looking so cute and so fun. Next, we're going to add some glitter to our orange here. So I'm going to grab my orange glitter glue. I'm going to put some glitter all on my little segment pieces here. And Yeah, this is gonna take a little while for all the glitter glue to dry. But depending on how big you made your slices, they're pretty easy to move around. So you don't have all that excess glitter if you're just using the glue pin. So it's really easy. You can move your artwork and then it will just dry in about an hour or so. Okay, so same thing if you want to add some cute little details. You've got hearts or little flowers, and I'm using the same technique, just going to pull that little sticker off the back, and I'm just going to layer a couple little pieces on top. So you're still going to have the glitter behind it. You can also do glitter all around the segments instead if you want. But just layering all these cute little like orange and yellow rhinestones on top. And then you'll have still little bits of your glitter all showing. Dropped one of my little rhinestone hearts here. And I'm kind of layering them so that they're coming on and off the segments. Again, just giving it some fun 3D look. There's our little orange slice. And then last thing we're going to do is I'm going to fill in all of this white space with my yellow glitter glue. I'm going to take my glitter glue pen and I'm just going to start filling in all of this white space. And so just like the other things, I'm just going to kind of squeeze out a little bit at a time. And then with the tip of my glitter pen, just kind of smear it all around. You can also grab a paintbrush if you are having any trouble using the tip of the glitter pin to smear your glitter. You could squeeze out a little bit and then take a paintbrush and spread it all out into a nice thin layer. And you're just going to want to make sure you wash out any paintbrush you might use as soon as you're done, since it is a glue. It'll wash out, but if you don't wash it, it will probably stick your paintbrush together forever. You can see here as I'm filling in, just got nice little glitter detail. I'm going to put some in the center here. So anywhere that I see the white foam, I'm just going to add some glitter. Right, filling in more and more. We're almost done with this fun summer craft. And if you want to keep adding, or maybe you're making one of every type of fruit you can think of, you can keep going. There's no wrong way to finish your artwork here. So you can see we've got all that cute glitter and texture and looking so fun, perfect for this hot summer day. And I hope that you guys all had so much fun crafting with me. I know I definitely did. And I can't wait to craft with you again soon. So thanks so much for joining me and Michael's, and have so much fun. Bye, guys.